how long is this suspension, which is how President Putin characterizes it, going to last for? Because the ball really is in his court.
Yeah, that is the big question because, the longer it goes on, the worse the impact becomes, obviously. And we've already seen that reflected in the wheat prices, futures trading out of Chicago. They were up 0.5% initially. Last I looked this morning, they were up 1.84%, somewhere in that neighborhood. And, this is a situation where we have a blockade, essentially, that is affecting a lot of people everywhere, including most of whom don't have anything to do, with the conflict.
And the way it seems to me is that this started as the catalyst for this arguably was the Ukrainian drone attack on targeting the Black Sea fleet.
According to Russia, yeah.
According to Russia. So arguably both sides.
With the help of UK frogmen. Don't forget.
Yes.
Right?
Allegedly.
Yeah. Yes, allegedly.
Yeah.
So arguably both sides need to de-escalate in the Black Sea region, and diplomatically that is a very, very tough sell in order to get the grain flowing once again.
Very difficult thing to get the Ukrainians to agree to. Look, the Black Sea fleet is launching cruise missiles from the Black Sea into Ukrainian cities. We don't know a lot about this attack. The details are very murky. What we do know is that it appears to have it was maritime and aerial drones, some combination thereof, and they might have struck multiple Russian ships. The Ukrainians are saying nothing. The Russians are saying very little, except to say that it was a big attack. The Russians immediately responded by saying, okay, we can no longer feasibly ensure the safety of the shipments. And that's a little bit disingenuous because it's Russia that's actually carrying out the blockade.
Exactly.
When you're the one carrying out the blockade, you're the threat.
With the assistance of drones from Iran, apparently.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah,
so that's another interesting angle, kind of worrying as well.
So herein lies the problem. Both sides are not going to de-escalate. The Russians are not going to confine the Black Sea fleet to port to let the grain exports out, and the Ukrainians are not going to de-escalate their attacks on Russian military assets. There needs to be this entire region, the Black Sea region, in order to get the grain flowing again. And it's incredibly hard to do so, needs to be deactivated as a theatre of operations on both sides. And that is a very, very tall order.
It's a very difficult thing to pull off.
Exactly.
There are a lot of players. Turkey is the key player because they control the ingress and egress from the Black Sea.
Through the Bosphorus.
Yes, exactly, the Bosphorus, exactly. The UN obviously is at play, the Ukrainians and Russians themselves. I think if you were the Ukrainians, you would say, well, one good way to end the blockade is there to be no more Black Sea fleet. The Russians, if they withdraw from the Black Sea, will probably not be able to get back in because of rules, pre-existing rules that the Turks have in place in terms of like letting combatants and non-combatants in and out of the zone. But there are some checks on the Russian behavior currently. That first day, they didn't stop that shipment from going out, that very large shipment. It was 12 vessels, I think 355,000 metric tons of grain.
That's a record for a day. Right?
It was a record for a day, indeed. Yeah, after the Russians so in a way it was a calling of their bluff. Yeah. The Russians have a number of things to consider. They can position this as a situation where, well, all parties are to blame. But if they actually get involved in threatening civilian vessels, that becomes a much harder diplomatic sell, and it becomes a much more difficult diplomatic sell to people like Turkey, countries like Turkey, or other Middle Eastern countries, the Saudis, who are very concerned about domestic / regional unrest as a result of food prices rising.
And it's not just an issue of access as well, or rather getting the grain and the wheat and the corn out of that area. It had sort of echoes of oil and the price cap as well, because, a lot of insurers are going, I don't know if I want to provide cover for these ships.
Yeah, you're right. We've discussed this before. When we have these geopolitical tensions that impact maritime shipping, often the big problem is all these ancillary services, insurance, reinsurance, a number of other services that people don't think about that become very difficult to obtain. So the problem, the Russians needn't, start bumping into, Ukrainian wheat vessels. They, just by their presence, can make these insurance companies a little less, eager to put out a policy. Those policies, by the way, are renewed on 7-day basis. Wow. So it's not as if you lock yourself in and you're okay for two months. Yeah.
7 days, goodness.
Well,
okay,
it's really
Ted,
hard to find a templated solution. When you look at the All for Food program, that's always shrouded in controversy and scandal. How do you move forward?
Indeed.
Very challenging.
All right, Ted, so .com is all over this story. What else is trending right now?
Well, the Ukraine war is our #1 trending story this morning among international readers. We have a Ukraine Live blog where we do regular updates. The rest of the stuff, though, right now is about U.S. markets. One stock in particular, AMD, obviously chip maker, very big deal. Speaking of disruptions to global supplies. Oh, yeah. It's interesting. They missed on the top line, and they also gave a weak forecast. But the shares are up about 3%, which I guess says something about, maybe people were expecting it to be a lot worse than it was. And then the overall U.S. market wrap. How did markets do overnight? Our Asia-Pacific readers are pouring into that story, just getting themselves, read in for the day.
All right, everything you need to know, click on to CNBC.com. Thank you, Ted Kemp there.